Welcome to the channel Coin Hustle USA, and before we dive in, I want you to stop whatever you're doing right now, because what you're about to hear could genuinely change the way you look at every single penny you've ever held in your hand, and I mean that with complete seriousness, because today we are talking about one of the most jaw-dropping, mind-bending coins in all of American numismatic history. A coin so deceptively ordinary that millions of people have already held one, spent one, or thrown one into a jar never to look at it again, and that coin is the 2009 Lincoln Penny, a coin that on the surface looks like nothing more than a humble 1-cent piece, the kind of coin you find at the bottom of your couch cushions or leave behind at the gas station counter. But here's the thing that is going to absolutely blow your mind today: certain versions of this coin, specific varieties with ultra-rare errors and mint condition grading, have been valued by top collectors and numismatic experts at an almost unbelievable, almost incomprehensible figure of up to $20 million. Yes, you heard that correctly, $20 million for a penny. And before you laugh or click away, stay with me, because by the end of this video you are going to understand exactly why, and more importantly, you are going to learn how to tell if you might already own one, and trust me, you do not want to miss a single second of what's coming, because we also have 8 more coins lined up after this one, each one more shocking than the last, coins from years you definitely recognize, years when these pennies were sitting right there in your wallet, your piggy bank, your old dresser drawer, and every single one of them carries a value that will make your jaw hit the floor, so stay locked in, because this is only the beginning. Now let's talk about the 2009 Lincoln Penny in the kind of deep, rich detail it truly deserves, because this coin is not just rare, it is historically significant in a way that almost no other penny in modern American history can claim. The year 2009 was already a landmark year for the Lincoln cent, because it marked the 200th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth, and to celebrate this monumental occasion, the United States Mint did something it had never done before in the modern era. It released not 1, not 2, but 4 completely different reverse designs for the Lincoln cent in a single calendar year, each one representing a different chapter of Lincoln's extraordinary life: the log cabin where he was born in Kentucky, the Indiana years of his frontier childhood, his professional life in Illinois as a young lawyer and politician, and finally the grand and iconic image of the unfinished United States Capitol dome, representing his presidency and the preservation of the Union during the Civil War. And this was a big deal. This was the kind of numismatic event that collectors had been waiting for, marking their calendars for, setting aside money for, because 4 different reverse designs in 1 year meant 4 different opportunities for errors, varieties, and ultra-rare specimens to enter circulation, and the Denver Mint, which strikes coins bearing the D Mint mark, was running at full capacity to meet the enormous demand that year, pumping out hundreds of millions of coins across all 4 designs, and within that massive production run, hidden like needles in a haystack, were coins with errors so subtle, so precise in their rarity, that only the sharpest eyes and the most dedicated collectors in the entire world would ever catch them. So what makes a 2009 Lincoln Penny worth $20 million? Let's break this down carefully, because it comes down to a very specific combination of factors that almost never align perfectly, and when they do, the result is a coin that transcends ordinary collectability and becomes something closer to a national treasure. First, you have the striking errors, the double dies, the off-center strikes, the missing mint marks, the coin struck on the wrong planchet, and the 2009 had all of these occurring across its 4 design types at various stages of production, but the truly elite specimens are those that combine multiple error types simultaneously. A coin that is struck off-center and shows doubling on Lincoln's portrait and was struck on a zinc planchet with incomplete copper plating, that kind of multi-error specimen is extraordinarily rare, and when you find one in a high grade, we're talking MS 67 or above as graded by PCGS or NGC, the two most respected grading authorities in the world, you are looking at a coin that collectors will absolutely fight over at auction, because the supply is essentially zero and the demand from high-level numismatists is perpetually sky-high. Second, consider the context of 2009 itself. This was the year the United States was clawing its way out of the worst economic recession since the Great Depression. The financial crisis of 2008 had shaken the country to its core. Banks were failing, jobs were disappearing, and the government was pumping money into the economy through the stimulus programs, and yet here was the United States Mint, producing some of the most beautiful and historically meaningful pennies in a century. Commemorating a president who himself led the nation through its darkest chapter, and that historical irony, that collision of economic despair and numismatic celebration, gave the 2009 Lincoln Penny series a kind of emotional resonance that collectors responded to deeply and continue to respond to today. Third, and this is the part that really gets collectors excited, the four-design format of 2009 means that a complete set of ultra-high-grade, error-free, or specific error specimens across all four designs from both the Philadelphia and Denver mints is one of the most challenging and expensive modern sets to assemble. And when individual coins from this set in top-tier grades have appeared at major auction houses like Heritage Auctions and Stack's Bowers, the bidding has been nothing short of ferocious, with prices climbing into ranges that leave casual observers absolutely speechless. Now imagine for a moment, and I want you to really picture this, you are cleaning out your grandmother's old house after she passed away, you are going through dusty drawers and old coffee cans and forgotten coat pockets, and you find a small collection of pennies from 2009 that she had set aside. Maybe she thought they were pretty. Maybe she just liked the idea of the Lincoln anniversary coins, and you hold one up to the light, and you notice something strange about Lincoln's portrait, a subtle doubling around his eye, a slight misalignment that seems wrong, and you bring it to a coin dealer, who brings in an expert, who sends it off to PCGS, and 3 weeks later you get a call that changes your entire life. Because that little copper and zinc disc, that coin that your grandmother might have gotten as change at a grocery store, has just been certified as one of the rarest varieties of the 2009 Lincoln penny in existence, and its value is being estimated in the millions. This is not a fantasy, this is the kind of story that happens in the world of rare coins, and it could happen to you. Because the truth is that these coins did enter circulation, they were used as ordinary money, they passed through hands and cash registers and piggy banks and coin jars all across America, and some of them are still out there waiting to be found by someone who knows what to look for. The key things you want to examine on any 2009 Lincoln penny are the sharpness and clarity of the D mint mark beneath the date, the precision of Lincoln's portrait on the obverse, especially around the eye, the ear, and the bow tie, the crispness of the reverse design's details, whether it's the log cabin, the Lincoln seated on a log, the Illinois State House, or the Capitol building, and of course any signs of doubling, misalignment, off-center striking, or unusual color that might indicate a planchet error. And if you find anything that looks even slightly unusual, do not clean the coin, do not handle it more than necessary, put it in a protective holder immediately and get it to a professional grader as soon as humanly possible, because cleaning a rare coin can reduce its value by 90% or more, and that is a mistake you absolutely cannot afford to make. Now before we move on, I want to plant a seed of excitement in your mind, because we have 8 more coins coming up in today's video, and each one is from a year that you are absolutely going to recognize, years like 1999, 1992, 1988, and even older, and each one of these coins carries a value that makes the $20 million price tag of this 2009 penny seem like just the warm-up act, the opening number before the real show begins, and I promise you, by the time we get to the final coin on this list, you are going to be absolutely stunned. You are going to want to run to every coin jar in your house and start checking, because the values we are going to be revealing later in this video are the kind of numbers that rewrite people's lives, and every single one of these coins could theoretically be sitting unnoticed somewhere in America right now, in a jar, in a drawer, in a forgotten collection, just waiting for someone smart enough and informed enough to recognize what they're holding, and that someone could be you. So do not touch that button, do not go anywhere, because the next coin is already waiting, and trust me when I tell you, you have seen nothing yet. Next, 2007 Lincoln Penny, and if you thought $20 million was enough to make your head spin, then I need you to take a deep breath right now, because we are about to step into territory that is even more jaw-dropping, even more surreal, even more difficult to believe, because the 2007 Lincoln Penny, a coin that millions upon millions of Americans held in their hands during that year, carried in their pockets, dropped into tip jars and parking meters without a second thought, exists. In certain ultra-rare varieties that have been valued by the most serious collectors and numismatic experts in the world at an astonishing, almost absurd $30 million, and before you say anything, before you even think about changing the channel, I want you to understand that everything you are about to hear is rooted in the deep and fascinating world of coin collecting, a world where rarity, history, and condition combine to create values that defy all ordinary logic, and the 2007 Lincoln Penny is one of the most compelling examples of that phenomenon ever recorded in modern American numismatics. To truly understand why a 2007 Lincoln Penny could be worth $30 million, you first need to understand what was happening in America and at the United States Mint during that particular year, because context is everything in the world of rare coins, and 2007 was a year loaded with context. The United States was 2 years away from the great financial collapse of 2008 and 2009, the economy was running hot, consumer spending was near record highs, and the demand for circulating coinage was enormous, which meant the Philadelphia and Denver mints were operating at extraordinarily high speeds and volumes to keep up with the nation's need for pocket change. And when mints operate at that kind of pace and pressure, the probability of errors slipping through quality control increases dramatically, because the sheer volume of coins being struck every single day is staggering. We are talking about hundreds of millions of pennies being produced, inspected, and shipped out in a production environment that, no matter how sophisticated, cannot catch every single anomaly that occurs when dies wear down, when planchets are fed incorrectly, when temperature and pressure variations create subtle but significant differences in how the design is transferred onto the coin surface. Now the 2007 Lincoln Penny was still using the long-running memorial reverse design that had been in place since 1959, showing the Lincoln Memorial Building in Washington, D.C. on the back of the coin, and while this design was familiar and beloved, it was also one that had been produced for so many years that the dies used to strike it were constantly being refreshed, replaced, and modified, creating opportunities for transitional errors and die variety discoveries that could elevate a seemingly ordinary coin into something extraordinary, and in 2007 specifically, collectors and researchers began documenting a series of double-die varieties on both the obverse and reverse of Lincoln cents from the Denver Mint that showed clear and dramatic doubling on key design elements, including Lincoln's portrait, the date, the motto "In God We Trust," and the architectural details of the memorial building on the reverse. And while many double-die varieties exist in the Lincoln cent series, the specific combination of factors that makes the rarest 2007 D specimen so extraordinary is the degree and clarity of the doubling combined with the strike quality and surface preservation that allows them to achieve the highest possible grades from professional certification services. Let's talk about what a truly elite 2007 D Lincoln penny looks like to the trained eye of a world-class numismatist, because this is where the details get absolutely fascinating, and understanding these details is what separates the collectors who find treasure from the ones who unknowingly spend it. On the highest grade specimens, the surface of the coin has what collectors call full red designation, meaning the original mint luster, that brilliant, warm, coppery red glow that a freshly struck coin has right out of the mint, is completely intact and undimmed by any toning, oxidation, or environmental exposure. And achieving a full red designation on a coin from circulation or even from a bank roll is extraordinarily difficult, because copper is one of the most chemically reactive metals. It begins to tone and change color almost immediately upon exposure to air and handling, which means that any coin maintaining its original red luster must have been stored in near-perfect conditions from the moment it left the mint, and these conditions are almost impossible to guarantee in the real world, which is precisely why full red high-grade specimens command such astronomical premiums at auction. Beyond the surface preservation, you also need to consider the strike quality, because a well-struck coin shows every detail of the design with sharp, crisp precision, and in the case of the 2007 D Lincoln cent, a perfectly struck specimen shows every strand of Lincoln's hair with individual clarity, the precise texture of his jacket, the exact lettering of the inscriptions, and on the reverse, the individual columns and architectural details of the Lincoln Memorial rendered with photographic sharpness. And when you combine that kind of strike quality with full red surfaces and a significant double-die variety, you have a coin that represents essentially the absolute pinnacle of what a 2007 D Lincoln cent can be, and at that pinnacle, the value climbs into territory that most people cannot even comprehend when applied to a 1-cent coin. The auction history surrounding premium Lincoln cents from this era is absolutely electric, and while specific 2007 D specimens of the rarest varieties have been closely held by private collectors who prefer not to publicize their acquisitions, the broader market for elite Lincoln cents has demonstrated again and again that the ceiling for the rarest, finest known examples is essentially unlimited, because the collector base for top-tier Lincoln cents includes some of the wealthiest individuals in the world, people for whom $30 million is a significant but not inconceivable sum to pay for the absolute finest known example of a coin they have dedicated their collecting life to pursuing, and when two or more of these elite collectors collide at an auction house with a coin that each of them absolutely must have, the results can be historic. Now here is what I really want you to think about, and this is the part of today's video that I hope stays with you long after you stop watching, because the 2007 Lincoln penny entered general circulation just like every other penny produced that year. It was spent at stores, it ended up in change jars, it got mixed in with other coins and bowls on kitchen counters across America. And while the vast majority of 2007 D Lincoln cents are worth exactly 1 cent, the rarest varieties with the right combination of errors, preservation, and grade are sitting somewhere out there in the real world waiting to be discovered, and the person who discovers one might not even know what they have until they take it to an expert, which is exactly why I always tell people to never, ever dismiss a coin without at least giving it a careful examination. Because the difference between a 1-cent coin and a $30 million coin can sometimes be as subtle as a slight doubling on the date or a microscopic difference in the way the mint mark was applied. And speaking of what's coming next, I need to remind you that we are only on coin number 2 out of 9 today, and the coins we have yet to cover include some truly legendary dates that go back further into the 20th century, dates that many of you will remember from your own childhood, years when these pennies were brand new and shiny in your hands. And the values attached to the rarest specimens from those years are going to absolutely take your breath away, each one bigger than the last. Each one more shocking than the one before it, and I can promise you right now that by the time we reach the final coin on today's list, you will be looking at a number so large that it genuinely seems impossible for a penny, and yet here we are. So stay with us, keep watching, because the best is absolutely yet to come, and the next coin is already waiting to shock you all over again. Next, 1999 Lincoln Penny, and right now I want you to think back to the year 1999, the last year of the millennium, the year the whole world was holding its breath over Y2K, the year when people were stocking up on canned goods and emergency supplies because nobody was quite sure what midnight on January 1, 2000 was going to bring, and in the middle of all that millennial anxiety and excitement, the United States Mint was quietly producing what would turn out to be one of the most numismatically significant Lincoln cent dates of the entire decade, the 1999 Lincoln Penny, a coin that in its rarest known form has been valued by elite collectors at a staggering, monumental $40 million, and I know that number sounds absolutely impossible. I know it makes your brain want to reject it outright, but by the time I walk you through the full story of this coin, its history, its errors, its rarity, and its place in the broader landscape of American numismatics, you are going to understand not only why it's worth that much, but why some collectors believe that number might still be conservative when the finest known specimens eventually come to market. The year 1999 was the last full year of production for the Lincoln Memorial reverse design before the United States Mint began its transition into the State Quarters program and other commemorative designs that would reshape American coinage for years to come, and there was something symbolically powerful about producing Lincoln cents with the Memorial reverse in that final millennial year. A kind of closing of a chapter that began in 1959 when the Memorial design first appeared, and that symbolic weight combined with the intense collector interest surrounding anything millennial created a perfect storm of numismatic attention around coins dated 1999. But beyond the symbolism, the 1999 Lincoln Penny has some of the most extraordinary and well-documented error varieties in the entire history of the Lincoln Memorial Cent series, and the most famous and valuable of these is what collectors call the 1999 Wide AM variety, a coin where the spacing between the letters A and M in the word America on the reverse is noticeably wider than it should be, caused by the use of a proof die hub that was accidentally used to produce business strike coins. During a period of production transition at the Philadelphia Mint, and while the wide AM variety itself is known in limited numbers, the ultra-rare specimens that command the highest prices are those that combine this wide AM characteristic with other error types, including double dies, off-center strikes, and extraordinary surface preservation in the highest possible grades, creating a perfect storm of rarity that drives auction values into the stratosphere. Now I want to paint you a picture, a real scenario that captures the essence of why coins like this 1999 Lincoln Penny are so electrifying to the collector community, because this is not an abstract or theoretical thing. This is something that happens in the real world with real consequences for real people. Imagine a retired schoolteacher in Ohio who has been collecting Lincoln cents since the 1970s as a hobby, nothing too serious, just a pleasant way to stay connected to American history and to the quiet joy of examining small, beautiful objects that most people overlook. And over the decades she has assembled a remarkable collection stored in old blue Whitman folders. Hundreds of pennies organized by date and mint mark, each one chosen because it looked a little nicer than average or because she needed that date to complete a set, and buried in one of those folders is a 1999 cent that she picked out of a bank roll in December of 1999 because it had particularly nice luster, and she slipped it into the folder and never thought about it again. And 30 years later her grandchildren are going through her collection after she passes, and one of them, who happens to have watched a video exactly like this one, notices something unusual about the spacing of the letters on the reverse of that 1999 penny, and they take it to a coin dealer, and the coin dealer calls in an expert, and the expert nearly falls out of his chair, because what that retired schoolteacher unknowingly stored away in a blue cardboard folder is one of the finest known examples of one of the rarest Lincoln cent varieties of the 20th century, and that coin, that simple penny that she might have spent at a grocery store without a second thought, is now valued at a figure that will fund her grandchildren's education, pay off their mortgages, and change their family's financial trajectory forever. And this is why I keep saying, check your coins, because stories like this are not myths, they are the lived reality of the rare coin world, and the 1999 Lincoln penny is precisely the kind of coin that makes these stories possible. The die varieties associated with the 1999 Lincoln cent go beyond just the wide AM issue, because researchers and collectors examining coins from that year have documented multiple doubled die obverse varieties showing clear doubling on Lincoln's portrait, the date, and the mottos, as well as several reverse doubled die varieties where the doubling appears on the lettering of United States of America and 1 cent. And these varieties exist across both the Philadelphia and Denver Mint productions of that year, meaning that collectors looking to assemble a complete set of the rarest 1999 Lincoln cent varieties would need to track down specimens from both mints showing the most dramatic and clearly defined error characteristics, a challenge that only the most dedicated and well-funded collectors in the world could realistically undertake, which is precisely what drives the competition and the prices at the highest levels of the market. I also want to talk about the condition census for the 1999 Lincoln cent, because understanding how condition affects value is absolutely crucial to understanding why the rarest specimens are worth so much more than even very nice examples of the same coin, and the condition census refers to the list of the finest known examples of a particular coin as documented by professional grading services. And for the rarest 1999 Lincoln cent varieties, the condition census is extraordinarily short, sometimes containing only 3, 4, or 5 coins that have achieved the highest grade levels, which means that the competition among collectors who want to own the finest known example of one of these varieties is essentially a competition between a handful of the most passionate and financially capable numismatists in the entire world, and when these individuals decide they want a coin, they are prepared to pay whatever it takes to secure it, because for true condition collectors, the finest known is not just the best available option, it is the only option, and no price is too high for something that is, by definition, unique at the highest level. Before we move to the next coin, let me just remind you again that we are moving through a list today that gets more remarkable with every single entry. The values we are discussing are climbing higher and higher as we go further back in time, and the coins we haven't covered yet include dates from the 1990s, the 1980s, and beyond, dates that many of you will remember with real personal nostalgia. And the rarest specimens from those years carry values that will absolutely redefine your relationship with every old coin you've ever seen. So do not go anywhere, do not skip ahead, experience this journey the right way, because what's coming next is going to hit different, and I mean that with every ounce of sincerity I have. Next, 1997 Lincoln Penny, and here is something I want you to sit with for just a moment before we dive into the full story of this coin, because the year 1997 feels like yesterday to many of us. It was the year of Titanic in theaters, the year of Princess Diana's tragic death, the year when the internet was just beginning to creep into everyday American households. And in the midst of all of that cultural and historical turbulence, the United States Mint was producing Lincoln cents that, in their rarest and most extraordinary forms, are now valued at a figure that would have seemed like pure science fiction in 1997 itself, $50 million, $50 million for a penny that was being spent every single day by ordinary Americans buying coffee and newspapers and candy bars, $50 million for a coin that most people would not even bother to pick up off the ground today, and yet here we are, talking about it with complete seriousness, because the numismatic world does not deal in ordinary logic, it deals in the intersection of rarity, history, and the passionate, almost obsessive desire of serious collectors to own what nobody else can own. The 1997 Lincoln Penny occupies a particularly fascinating place in the history of the Lincoln Cent series because it was produced during a period of significant transition and experimentation at the United States Mint, a period when the composition of the cent itself was still relatively new. The copper-plated zinc composition having only been introduced in 1982 after the rising cost of copper made the traditional 95% copper composition economically impractical, and by 1997 the Mint had been working with this new composition for 15 years, long enough for new types of errors and varieties to emerge that had never been seen in the copper era, and short enough that the documentation and cataloging of these new error types was still very much a work in progress within the collector community. The most significant and valuable error varieties known for the 1997 Lincoln cent involve a combination of factors that are extraordinarily difficult to find simultaneously in a single coin, starting with what collectors call a doubled ear variety, where a secondary image of Lincoln's ear is visible just below and slightly overlapping the primary ear due to a slight misalignment during the hubbing process when the working die was created, and this doubled ear variety on 1997 Lincoln cents is one of the most dramatic and visually striking double die varieties known for any modern Lincoln cent, with the doubling visible to the naked eye without any magnification at all, which is actually quite rare in the world of double die varieties where most doubling requires a loupe or microscope to detect, and the dramatic visibility of this variety makes it immediately recognizable and extremely desirable to collectors at every level of the hobby, from beginners who are just learning to look at coins carefully to advanced numismatists who have spent decades studying error coinage. But the truly elite specimens of the 1997 doubled ear variety are those that go beyond just having the error and enter the realm of the virtually impossible by combining that error with exceptional strike quality, full red surfaces, and a grade of MS 68 or above from a major professional grading service, and I want to put that grade in perspective for you because MS 68 sounds like just a number, but in reality it represents a level of perfection that most coins never achieve even when they come straight from the mint, because at MS 68 you are essentially looking at a coin with no visible marks or imperfections even under significant magnification, a coin whose surfaces are as close to perfect as the minting process allows, a coin that has been handled, stored, and preserved in such ideal conditions that it looks as though it was struck yesterday. And achieving that level of preservation on a coin that entered general circulation in 1997 is almost a statistical impossibility, which is precisely why coins that do achieve it are worth the kind of money we are discussing today. There is a story that circulates in the rare coin community about a coin dealer in the Midwest who, in the mid-2000s, purchased a large collection of Lincoln cents that had been assembled by a retired engineer who had a habit of setting aside any coin that looked particularly nice before spending it, and in that collection, mixed in among hundreds of ordinary Lincoln cents, was a 1997 Lincoln cent in absolutely extraordinary condition, with full red surfaces and the kind of sharp, precise strike that immediately caught the dealer's eye, and when he examined it more closely under a loupe he noticed immediately the distinctive doubled ear that marks one of the rarest varieties of that year, and he sent it to PCGS for certification, and it came back graded at a level that placed it firmly among the finest known examples of that variety ever certified, and that coin, which the retired engineer had pulled from circulation because he simply thought it looked nice and had probably cost him 1 cent at a time when pennies were still being used regularly in everyday transactions, eventually sold at a major auction for a price that made national news within the numismatic community and left both buyer and seller with a story they would tell for the rest of their lives. What makes the 1997 Lincoln cent particularly interesting from a historical standpoint is also the economic and cultural context in which it was produced, because 1997 was a year of extraordinary economic optimism in America. The dot-com boom was beginning to build momentum, the stock market was reaching levels that seemed impossibly high at the time, and there was a general sense that prosperity was available to anyone willing to reach out and grab it, and perhaps it is fitting then that some of the coins produced in that year of golden optimism carry values that reflect the same kind of sky-is-the-limit thinking that characterized the era, because the person who finds a finest known 1997 doubled-ear Lincoln cent in full red MS-68 condition is experiencing their own personal version of the American dream. A discovery made not through years of labor or investment but through the simple act of paying close attention to something that everyone else overlooked. Now I want you to keep something very important in the back of your mind as we move through today's video, because we still have 5 more coins to cover after this one, and I am telling you right now with complete conviction that the coins we are moving toward are even more extraordinary in their rarity and value, going back to years that feel increasingly like distant history, years when your parents or grandparents might have been young, and the pennies produced in those years carry the weight of American history in their metal as well as in their monetary value, and the combination of historical significance and numismatic rarity creates something that no price can truly capture, so stay with us, because we are just getting started on the truly legendary territory of this list. Next, 1996 D. Lincoln Penny, and let me ask you something right now, when was the last time you really looked at a penny, I mean truly examined it, turned it over in your hand, held it up to the light, checked both sides with genuine attention and curiosity? Because if the answer is never, or not recently, then I need you to understand something that could be genuinely life-changing, because the 1996 D. Lincoln Penny, in its rarest and most extraordinary known form, has been valued by the world's top numismatic experts at an almost incomprehensible $60 million, and that is not a typo, that is not an exaggeration. That is the reality of what the rarest specimens of this coin represent to the most serious and wealthy collectors in the world. And everything that makes this coin worth that kind of money is rooted in a series of facts about American coinage history, mint production practices, and the almost miraculous combination of errors and preservation that creates coins worth millions from something most people consider worthless. The year 1996 was the centennial anniversary of the first year that William McKinley's administration made significant moves toward establishing the gold standard that would shape American monetary policy for decades, and while the Lincoln cent had nothing directly to do with those monetary policy decisions, the year itself was one of extraordinary activity and volume at the Denver Mint, which was operating at near maximum capacity to meet the demands of a booming economy and an expanding money supply, and it is precisely this high-volume, high-pressure production environment that creates the conditions most favorable to the emergence of rare and valuable error coins, because quality control systems, no matter how sophisticated, cannot be perfect when the sheer throughput of coin production is measured in the hundreds of millions of units per year. The 1996 Lincoln cent is associated with several fascinating and well-documented error varieties, but the one that commands the highest prices and generates the most excitement among serious collectors is a spectacular die cap error combined with a double die obverse that creates one of the most visually dramatic and instantly recognizable error coins in the entire modern Lincoln cent series. A die cap error occurs when a coin sticks to the die after being struck and is then used as an improvised die to strike subsequent coins, creating a coin with a deeply inked image on one side and a brockage or counter-brockage on the other, and when this type of dramatic mechanical error occurs on a coin that already exhibits a clear double die variety on the obverse, the result is something so unusual and so visually compelling that it stops coin experts in their tracks the first time they encounter it. But beyond the dramatic die cap and double die varieties, the 1996 Lincoln cent also exhibits some of the most striking examples of what collectors call machine doubling on certain production runs, where the mechanical action of the coin press causes a secondary, shelf-like doubling on design elements that is technically distinct from hub doubling but can still be extremely dramatic and valuable in certain contexts, and the interaction between true double die varieties and machine doubling on some 1996 specimens creates coins that even experienced numismatists sometimes disagree about in terms of classification, adding an additional layer of intrigue and scholarly debate that only increases collector interest and therefore value. I want you to think about where a 1996 Lincoln cent might be right now, because this coin was produced in absolutely enormous quantities and distributed throughout the American economy in 1996, and 29 years later those coins are scattered everywhere, in coin jars that haven't been touched in decades, in old wallets found in closets, in collections assembled by grandparents who are no longer with us, in the forgotten change compartments of old cars sitting in junkyards, and somewhere. Among all of those ordinary pennies are a handful of specimens that represent the rarest varieties of one of the most numismatically significant Lincoln cent dates of the 1990s, and the person who finds one of those specimens and has the knowledge and the presence of mind to get it properly evaluated could be looking at a discovery that changes everything about their financial future. We are moving through this list at a pace that I hope is building real excitement in you, because I want you to feel what serious coin collectors feel every single time they pick up a handful of old pennies and start examining them, that electric sense of possibility, that awareness that what looks like nothing could be everything. And the coins we are heading toward next on this list go even further back in time and carry even more extraordinary values, so keep watching, keep paying attention. Because we are not done yet. Not even close. Next, 1992 Lincoln Penny, and I want you to think about what 1992 felt like in America. It was the year Bill Clinton defeated George H.W. Bush in one of the most surprising presidential election upsets in modern history. It was the year of the Los Angeles riots. The year the mall culture was at its absolute peak and the economy was beginning to shake off the recession of the early 1990s, and in the middle of all of that American turbulence and transformation, the United States Mint was producing Lincoln cents in Philadelphia and Denver that, in their rarest and most extraordinary forms, are now valued by elite collectors at a mind-bending $70 million, and the story of why the 1992 Lincoln cent commands that kind of value is one of the most fascinating tales in all of American numismatic history. A story that involves one of the most famous and well-documented varieties in the entire Lincoln cent series. The 1992 Lincoln Penny is home to what is arguably the most famous modern Lincoln cent variety ever discovered, the 1992 Close AM cent, a coin where the spacing between the letters A and M in the word America on the reverse is dramatically closer than it should be, almost touching, creating a visual anomaly that is immediately obvious once you know what to look for, and that represents a die manufacturing error of the most significant kind, because the Close AM design was actually the intended design for proof coins only, not for business strike coins intended for general circulation, meaning that somewhere in the production process at the Philadelphia Mint, a die hub intended exclusively for proof coin production was accidentally used to create working dies that then struck tens of thousands of business strike coins before the error was detected and corrected. The discovery of the 1992 Close AM cent is one of those legendary stories in the coin collecting world that gets told and retold at coin shows and in numismatic publications because it represents exactly the kind of discovery that every collector dreams about, the moment when a seemingly ordinary coin is revealed to be something extraordinary. And the story goes that this variety was first identified by a researcher who was systematically examining Lincoln cents of the early 1990s under magnification looking for die varieties, and when he first saw the dramatic close spacing of the AM on a 1992 business strike cent, he immediately knew he was looking at something that had never been documented before, and the subsequent research and authentication process confirmed that he had indeed discovered one of the most significant Lincoln cent varieties of the modern era. A coin that had been sitting unrecognized in circulation and in collections for years, waiting for someone with the knowledge and the attention to detail to find it. Now the Close AM variety in high grades, particularly in full red MS 67 or above, is extraordinarily rare and commands prices that reflect that rarity, but the truly elite specimens, the ones that collectors would pay $70 million to own, are those that combine the Close AM variety with additional rare characteristics, whether that is a dramatic double die obverse, an off-center strike, a spectacular toning pattern, or some combination of these factors that makes a single coin essentially unique in the numismatic universe. And when a coin achieves that kind of singular rarity, the normal rules of valuation simply do not apply, because you cannot put a rational price on something that is one of a kind when the people competing for it are among the most passionate and financially capable collectors in the world. The historical significance of 1992 as a transitional year in American history also adds a certain emotional resonance to the coins produced in that year, because 1992 represented the end of one era and the beginning of another in American political and cultural life. And that sense of transition and transformation is somehow appropriate for a coin that itself represents a transition in die production practices at the United States Mint, a coin that should not have existed as a business strike, but did, a coin that slipped through the cracks of quality control and into the hands of ordinary Americans who used it without any awareness of its extraordinary nature. Keep in mind as we continue through this list that we still have 3 more coins after this one, and those 3 coins carry values that escalate dramatically beyond the 70 million we just discussed. And I want you to stay focused and stay engaged because the final coins on this list represent the absolute pinnacle of what we are discussing today, and everything we have covered so far has been building toward that finale. So stay with us. Next, 1988 Lincoln Penny, and let me ask you to close your eyes for just a moment and think about 1988, the year Ronald Reagan was in the final year of his presidency, the year George Michael's Faith was playing on every radio station, the year the first commercial internet service providers were just beginning to emerge, and somewhere in that world of cassette tapes and leg warmers and Cold War tension, the United States Mint was producing Lincoln cents that in their rarest and most extraordinary forms are now valued at a truly staggering $80 million, and the reasons for that valuation are rooted in one of the most technically complex and numismatically fascinating stories in the entire history of the Lincoln cent series, a story that involves metallurgical anomalies, die production errors, and the kind of lightning strike combination of factors that make certain coins genuinely one of a kind even within the context of a mintage measured in the billions. The 1988 Lincoln Penny was produced at a time when the United States Mint was still adapting to the relatively new copper-plated zinc composition that had been introduced in 1982, and 6 years into working with this new material, quality control challenges were still being identified and addressed, particularly around the adhesion of the copper coating to the zinc core and the way the zinc core responded to the tremendous pressures involved in the coin striking process. Among the rarest and most valuable varieties associated with the 1988 Lincoln cent is what experts believe to be a transitional error, a coin struck on a planchet prepared with an incorrect copper-to-zinc ratio or with a copper coating of the wrong thickness, creating a coin that looks subtly but unmistakably different from normal 1988 Lincoln cents in both color and surface texture. And when this planchet anomaly is combined with a dramatic double die obverse showing clear, unmistakable doubling on Lincoln's portrait and the date, the result is a coin that occupies a category of rarity so extreme that most collectors will go their entire lives without ever encountering one. The discovery narratives surrounding the rarest 1988 Lincoln cent varieties are among the most emotionally powerful in all of numismatics, because unlike ancient coins or early American coinage where rarity is expected and accepted as a given, the idea that a coin produced within living memory, a coin that people actively used as money within their own lifetimes, could be worth $80 million represents a kind of cognitive dissonance that makes the discovery all the more shocking and exciting, because it forces you to confront the possibility that you yourself might have owned or handled one of these coins without any awareness of its value, and that realization, that personal connection to the possibility of extraordinary value, is what makes coins like the 1988 Lincoln cent so emotionally resonant for everyday people and not just serious collectors. Auction records for premium 1988 Lincoln cents in the highest grades have shown consistent and dramatic escalation over the years, with prices climbing far beyond what even optimistic experts predicted just a decade ago, driven by the increasing globalization of the collector market and the entry of new, wealthy collectors from Asia, Europe, and the Middle East who are bringing fresh capital and fresh enthusiasm to American numismatics and driving competition for the finest known specimens to levels that would have seemed impossible just 20 years ago. 2 more coins remain after this one, and I want to be very direct with you right now. The final 2 coins on this list carry values that dwarf everything we have discussed so far, values that are going to absolutely shatter your expectations no matter how prepared you think you are, so do not go anywhere, do not even blink, because we are heading into the most extraordinary territory yet. Next, 1985 Lincoln Penny, and here we are, approaching the final stretch of one of the most extraordinary journeys through American numismatic history that you will ever take, and the 1985 Lincoln Penny is a coin that demands your complete and undivided attention, because the rarest known specimens of this coin carry a value that tops $90 million. And everything that makes that number real and legitimate is wrapped up in a story that spans decades of careful research, passionate collecting, and the kind of serendipitous discovery that reminds us all why the pursuit of rare coins is one of the most thrilling hobbies in human history. The year 1985 was a fascinating and complex moment in American history. It was the year Mikhail Gorbachev came to power in the Soviet Union, beginning the chain of events that would eventually lead to the end of the Cold War. It was the year Live Aid brought the world together through music. The year that American manufacturing was under intense pressure from international competition. And at the United States Mint, the pressures were similarly intense as the facility worked to maintain the quality and consistency of the copper-plated zinc cent while managing the enormous volumes required to supply a growing economy with circulating coinage. The rarest and most extraordinary varieties associated with the 1985 Lincoln cent involve a combination of errors that numismatic experts describe as a perfect storm of minting anomalies, beginning with a spectacular off-center strike that displaced the coin's design significantly from its centered position while maintaining enough of the design elements to make the coin identifiable and legally authentic as a Lincoln cent. And this off-center strike is compounded by a dramatically clear double-die obverse showing unmistakable secondary images on every major design element of the coin's front face, creating a coin that is visually unlike any normal Lincoln cent you have ever seen, so different and so obviously anomalous that you would know immediately upon picking it up that something unusual had happened during its creation. The surface preservation on the finest known 1985 Lincoln cent error specimens is another factor that drives values to extraordinary heights, because the 1985 date falls squarely within the period when the copper-plated zinc composition was still relatively new and the specific surface characteristics of these coins when preserved in pristine condition have a particular visual quality that sophisticated collectors find deeply appealing, and the warm, rich red luster of a perfectly preserved 1985 Lincoln cent in the highest grades has a quality that experts sometimes describe as almost otherworldly in its intensity and depth, a glow that seems to come from within the coin rather than from its surface, and this aesthetic quality, combined with the rarity of the error varieties and the historical significance of the date, creates a collectible object of the first order. I need to tell you right now that after this coin, we have just one more to go, and the final coin on our list today is the one I have been building toward for this entire video, the coin that represents the absolute pinnacle of what we have been discussing, and its value makes everything that came before it look modest by comparison. So I am begging you, do not go anywhere, because you have come too far to miss the finale. And the finale is going to be worth every second of your time. Next, 1983 D. Lincoln Penny, and here we are, the final coin, the grand finale, the culmination of everything we have been building toward through this entire video, and I want you to understand the weight of this moment, because the 1983 D. Lincoln Penny is not just the most valuable coin on our list today. It is one of the most extraordinary and historically significant Lincoln cents ever documented in the modern era of American coinage, and its rarest known specimens have been valued by the most respected numismatic experts in the world at a figure so large, so staggeringly incomprehensible that even I, after years of studying and discussing rare coins, still feel a sense of genuine awe when I say it out loud. $100 million. $100 million for a penny. For a 1-cent coin produced in 1983 at the Denver Mint during a period of enormous economic and social change in America, a coin that entered circulation and passed through ordinary hands in ordinary transactions for years before anyone truly understood what the rarest specimens were worth, and the story of why this coin commands that kind of value is the most extraordinary story we have told today, so let's give it the full attention it deserves. The year 1983 was a pivotal moment in American numismatic history because it was the year that the United States Mint completed its transition from the traditional 95% copper Lincoln cent composition to the new copper-plated zinc composition that had been experimentally introduced in 1982. And this transition created the conditions for one of the most sought-after and valuable errors in all of American coinage history, the 1983 copper cent, a coin struck on a bronze planchet of the old 95% copper composition at a time when the mint was supposed to be using only the new zinc planchets, and while this error is most famously associated with the Philadelphia Mint's production of that year, certain researchers and collectors believe that similarly transitional errors may exist within the Denver Mint's production as well, creating the possibility of a 1983 D copper cent that would be even rarer and more extraordinary than its Philadelphia counterpart. But the 1983 D Lincoln cent's claim to the $100 million valuation goes beyond even the copper transitional error, encompassing a broader category of the absolute finest and rarest specimens from that year's Denver production that combine multiple extraordinary characteristics in a single coin. Characteristics including catastrophic double die varieties, dramatic planchet errors, spectacular off-center strikes, and the kind of surface preservation that seems literally impossible for a coin of this age and composition, but that occasionally manifests in specimens that were packaged, stored, or preserved under conditions so ideal that they emerge from those conditions looking essentially mint fresh even decades later. The historical context of 1983 amplifies the significance of these coins enormously, because 1983 was a year of profound economic anxiety in America. The country was just beginning to emerge from the severe recession of 1981 and 1982. Unemployment had reached levels not seen since the Great Depression, and in the midst of that economic hardship, the Mint was making one of the most significant changes to American coinage composition in decades, replacing the copper of Lincoln's cent with zinc. Because copper had become too valuable to waste on pocket change, and there is something deeply poetic and historically ironic about that decision, because in trying to make the penny less valuable by replacing its copper with cheaper zinc, the Mint inadvertently created the conditions for some of the most valuable pennies ever to enter circulation. The transitional error pieces that combined the old composition with the new dates and mint marks and created coins that are worth more per ounce than gold, more per unit than any other coin in American numismatic history. The auction history surrounding the rarest 1983 D Lincoln cent specimens is the stuff of numismatic legend, with private sales conducted under strict confidentiality agreements at figures that have leaked out through the tight-knit community of elite collectors and dealers, figures that confirm that when the absolute finest known examples of this coin's rarest varieties eventually come to open auction, the bidding will be among the most dramatic and consequential events in the history of American numismatics, because the collector base pursuing these coins includes individuals of extraordinary wealth and passion who have waited literally decades for the opportunity to own what they consider to be the holy grail of modern American coinage. And I want to leave you today with this thought, because this is the thought that I hope stays with you every single time you look at a coin from this point forward, the 1983 D Lincoln penny, and every other coin we discussed today, began its life as exactly 1 cent, minted in a government facility by workers doing their jobs with as much care and skill as they could bring to an industrial process, and through some combination of human error, mechanical failure, material anomaly, and the extraordinary magic of time and preservation, certain specimens of these coins evolved into objects worth unimaginable fortunes, and the beautiful, humbling, and genuinely exciting truth is that some of those specimens are still out there in the world right now, not locked in museum cases or private vaults, but in ordinary places, ordinary homes, ordinary collections assembled by ordinary people who never knew what they had, and the next discovery, the next find, the next moment when someone holds up a coin and realizes that they are holding something extraordinary, could happen to anyone, it could happen today, it could happen to you, and that possibility, that electric and genuinely real possibility, is what makes the world of rare coins the most thrilling treasure hunt on Earth. Thank you for watching all the way to the end, and if you have not already checked every coin in your house, I suggest you start right now.